It's 5:29, time for Fine Tailored Suits, brought to you by Quality Tire, with 10 locations across Saskatchewan, qualitytire.ca. Back to the plunging necklines is Glen Suitor. I got my 86 t-shirt, Suits, pure TV guy, dressing up even for the radio. I love it, buddy.
Well, and cheering on my guys at the Briar, big time. Like cheering them on now.
There you go. Saskatchewan.
Team Sask, I know, they play each other. This is not good for me in our bet.
One of them's going to 2 losses. One of the ones I had as a favorite, Brad Jacobs of Northern Ontario in a tough spot in the 11th, tied at 6. That'd be 2 losses for Jacobs. That would not be good for my side of the wager. Just to remind folks, Suits said I get Canada and I get Saskatchewan, and DT, you get everybody else. And I thought, I hate to bet against Saskatchewan, but those are pretty good odds I kind of had to take on. So I'm looking forward to steak and Jack Daniels on one of us. That's whenever people can sit together. That'll be okay.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's a done deal either way, but come on, Team Sass. Let's go Gushu. Come on, guys. Let's get it done.
Let's find a way they can tie this one, and then we'll all be good. You were nice enough to join us, Suits, on Friday, and that was a hard day for all of us who knew Chris Schultz and who were friends with Chris Schultz. And it was amazing because there were so many radio shows and broadcasters that talked about their friendship with Chris Schultz, and you go, man, that cat touched a lot of people, broadcasting side, the football side, young and old, just so much. I don't know if he knew the effect he had on football fans in this country.
Well, that hit we did on Friday was a difficult one, I have to say. I mean, it gets you right in the throat when that happens, right? And you just kind of, the emotions take over. But, I've spent the weekend, DT, and I'm sure you have too. I toasted a couple of times and a couple of whiskeys to my good friend Chris Schultz, and all the conversations that we'd have. And what I was thinking about throughout the weekend was more of the legacy and the celebration of having such a great friend like Schultz, but the legacy of what have I learned from my friend. And, it sort of reinforced a few things. It reinforced the fan engagement, because I know you talked about it on Friday, and I've talked about it at length as well with my buddies here in Vancouver, but that big, huge handshake when Chris Schultz would reach across the table. And I mean, I don't know if you can see it on our Zoom, but his hand would go halfway up your arm when you shook hands with him, and then he'd pull you close to him, and then he'd start. And that fan engagement, we both agreed that going fan to fan in this country was super important for Canadian football and always will be. And it's something that we both enjoyed and I still do and will continue to, but it reinforced that every fan is so important, and not just because we're selling the game, but also because these are people that want to come up and say hi, and you should respect that and take the time, take 5 minutes, take 10 minutes. Schultz always did that. So there was that. There was also, and I'm thinking about through the weekend, using your platform in a good way. And his Perlator Tackle Hunger, that initiative, absolutely outstanding. And I encourage people to call your local food bank and make a donation if you can in his name. I did it during the weekend, and I have to say, it just felt good. I do the whole thing online. You send, you push send, you put your credit card on there, and you donate whatever you can, and all of a sudden you put it in Schultz's name, and you go, I feel a little bit better. And that was such a great platform for him, and he did so well with it. And then the last one for me, DT, is the broadcasting angle from Schultz. And I thought Pinball Clements, I wrote down one of the quotes from Pinball because I thought it was outstanding.
Yeah.
He said his vigorous preparation, both mentally and physically, honored his profession. And I thought that is something that is going to strengthen my resolve when it comes to making sure I'm prepared as much as I possibly can be to feature the players on the field, to feature this great game that we love in our country. And it doesn't have to be one against the other ever.
Yeah.
It's the game of football, and it's supporting it, and it strengthened my resolve. So, you celebrate that we got to know a great person and a great ambassador like Chris Schultz.
Yeah, Schultz had those 3 seasons with the Cowboys and 9 with the Argos. He just loved them both, right? He never played the NFL against the CFL. Yeah, the NFL has the elite of the elite athletes, and every CFL player would want to be a starter in the NFL if they could. We all get it. For people who want to bludgeon the CFL with the NFL, we get it, okay? But you don't have to. You can just love football, because no one really uses NCAA to bludgeon U sports. And I don't go, well, I'm not going to a Rams game because the Riders are better. Well, sure, but who cares? It's football. I'm not going to watch my son play football because he's not a Regina Thunder. Well, he's an ad of football. Leave him alone, right? We are where we are, and football is a great game for what it is. And Schultz would never use one to beat down the other. And I love that.
Well, he, like you said, he played in both leagues and had an unwavering respect for the athlete in Canadian football.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, we talked about this last week, early in the week, where whether you talk to Warren Moon or Doug Flutie or Chris Schultz, guys who played at both leagues and were starters in both leagues, and they'll tell you about how much they respect the athlete that's playing in the CFL. So, I've been saying it forever and ever, and Schultz did too, but he will forever inspire me and strengthen my resolve when it comes to the game of football in our country.
Yeah, amen to that. Absolutely. This from Arash Madani of Sportsnet. He was trolling the internet and found Chris Jones, former Riders coach, his Facebook page. Chris Jones announcing on his Facebook page that he has applied for the head coaching job with his alma mater, Tennessee Tech. Wrote Jones, "In my mind, I've spent 30 years preparing for this opportunity." So Jones, out of contract with the Cleveland Browns, wants to be the head coach at Tennessee Tech. So a little action for Jones. I guess the Edmonton thing was a joke when he put the picture of himself with the Grey Cup sitting next to him on the flight. But Jones looking to get back into the college ranks. Suits, your impression?
Yeah. I've always had great respect for Chris Jones. That doesn't mean that I agreed with all of his approach. And, I thought there were times when, and I'll just say it, I think he mismanaged the quarterback position at times.
What? That's what?
But I will say, when it comes to, he reminded me of the late Don Matthews, and I know he learned a ton from Coach Matthews, and I of course had Matthews when he was in Saskatchewan, and he was one of those guys that would empower you to take control of your own game. He would give you as much room as you needed to allow your personality and your work ethic and everything else to come through, and not try to micromanage you as a player and overcoach you. He would cut you loose, but don't take advantage of it or take it for granted. So I think he and Don Matthews had very similar character traits when it came to coaching, and he'll be successful at the college level. Guys will go to the wall with it for him, and who knows? Maybe he'll be back in the CFL at some point.
Yeah, entirely possible. I like that you said Chris Jones, you thought he mismanaged. And tell me if this is fair, unfair, insulting, not insulting, because I've always thought he just didn't care about I thought, watching from afar, this guy does not care about what's happening on the offensive side. He wants to absolutely destroy you with Willie and Charleston and company, and he doesn't care. Brandon Bridge, sure, let's throw him out there. Kinney, sure, we'll throw him out there. Whatever, just get them the ball back so I can kill them with my defense.
I thought Brandon Bridge that year could have really taken a step and shown us that he may have been ready to start. I really do. I saw enough in Brandon Bridge athletically, in making the throws. One of the things that I think has sort of haunted him, and I know he's moving on in life now, but one of the things that have haunted him was his throwing motion. I think his throwing motion was a little unorthodox. It's like a weird golf swing when you're watching it. It works for the person, but it's not that prototypical, release at most quarterbacks at the pro level you see. It was kind of off his shoulder and a little bit, almost sidearm at times. And I think that probably put some sort of negative thought in some coaches' minds. And as long as it's working for him, it shouldn't. But for whatever reason, I don't think he got the same opportunity. I mean, you think back to that playoff game where Kevin Glen wasn't seeing it, through 3 picks or 2 or 3 picks in the playoff game in Toronto. And Brandon Bridge was a play away from getting them to the cup after coming back from the big hole they were in. So, I thought it would have been good to see him actually take a team out of training camp and see if he could really be a true starter, but we'll never know now.
I remember that playoff run, and I remember seeing Bridge play the game in Toronto, and how do I put it? I never, in the 5 years I was charting the CFL, I never saw a quarterback make it more difficult on his receivers to make plays. I've seen quarterbacks who were bad, but Bridge would, Naaman would have to reach behind him, or Bakari Grant would have to pull one off his shoe tops, and you go, oh, that's, I get it. It's a completion, but it's just not sustainable completion. And then when you see how they deployed, and we're off on a Brandon Bridge tandem, but here we are, tangent, here we are. They would run 2, 3, 4 times as many hitches and screens, and you think, are they doing that because they think they need to? Are they doing that because they don't trust him? Are they punishing him by this? What's happening with all this? It was a real interesting era of Canadian football. If we had this hope for a Canadian quarterback, but there are stories behind the scenes as well, but it just didn't come to be. And now Bridge has moved on to be a police officer in Ontario. Yeah,
maybe Michael O'Connor is a guy that will get an opportunity. I don't know if Brandon Bridge would have been a star championship quarterback at the pro level. I'm not completely sure he would have yet, but I don't think he got the same opportunity as some other maybe American coaches or quarterbacks, if you want to say it that way.
Yeah.
Sure. Because some of the situations he was put in, I mean, the team's down by 10, down by 11. The quarterback, whoever it was that was the starter, throws 2 or 3 picks. He's thrown in. He rescues the day and did a bunch that year and doesn't get the start the next week, or doesn't get the start 2 weeks from then.
Yeah.
I say mismanaged because ripping quarterbacks back and forth, I think, is a mistake. I think you gotta roll with them sometimes if you see that potential, like they did early with Cody Fajardo. I mean, every quarterback takes some time. You got to see. I think the first 3 things you got to see is accuracy, mental and physical toughness, and decision making. Those are the 3 you got to see right out of the gate at the pro level. And then once you see that, now how do they come out of their own end when they're down by 7 and 3 minutes to go? How do they get themselves past in the red zone and score with a minute to go? Like, how do they handle all those game situations? And you don't know that until they go through them. And now we know that from Cody Fajardo.
Yeah, we had a real good season worth of evidence for Fajardo in 2019 as we talked with Glen Suitor in fine tailored suits. We want to talk about International Women's Day coming up in the next segment, but I wanted to get your take on Farhan Lalji. Dave Naylor put out their piece on tsn.ca today. They're grading everybody's off season, all 9 teams from Winnipeg at the top to Ottawa at the bottom. They had the Riders with a C+ for their off-season work. When you look at what the Riders and Jeremy O'Day have done between what was to be 2020 and 2020, the 2021 season, what do you think about what they've done?
Can I just say I'm so glad that we're talking about this?
Someone else's opinion piece. I love this. Yeah.
That we're talking about rosters, and we're talking about players, and we're talking about how good the team looks getting ready to play a season. This is exciting stuff. So, yeah, I mean, first of all, like, if you break it down when you're looking at giving a letter grade, okay, I think if you have, especially in Canadian football, if you have a good quarterback situation, that you start at a C+. Let's start there with Saskatchewan. So if you look at Cody Fajardo and what he did last year, He checked all those boxes that I just talked about. He checked all of them. So now he's got to check another box, which is getting to the show and winning a championship and being that guy who leads the team to it. So that's remains to be seen. Checked a lot of boxes last year, but then you add James Franklin to the mix. Isaac Harker, who showed some things. I heard you and Luke talk about Isaac. I thought very impressive in a lot of areas when he got a chance to play. So what is the other team in the league that has a quarterback situation as balanced and as strong as Saskatchewan? I would say Hamilton with Dane Evans and Jeremiah Masoli, both healthy. That's a good one. But other than that, I like Saskatchewan's situation.
Calgary, maybe, but then Calgary and Dakota Prukop doesn't have the depth. Toronto, no. Ottawa, yikes. Hamilton's the current gold standard, right? Between Masoli and Dane Evans, both guys who have had a ton of starts. When I think of the Riders offseason, when I think of some other teams, I think, okay, well, they have gone from whatever to whatever +2. They've added some stuff. I'm not sure, and it's certainly salary spending related. From the end of the 2019 season, I don't see them as a better team, right? You lose Charleston Hughes, you lose Cam Judge, you lose Solomon Elimimian, you add Larry Dean, you add the Herdman Reeds, you add Freddie Bishop. Ultimately, they're not as good a team as they finished in 2019. Would you agree or no?
Well, I think you're looking at it in a way a lot of people do. And I think what Farhan and Dave Naylor did, which is we're looking at a team based on what they add. But I also look at it in what they kept.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Right.
Shaq Evans nets out as Shaq Evans will be Shaq plus 5%.
Kyron Moore.
Exactly.
Another year of
better.
Yeah. Another year of experience, right? DT, that receiving core together with Cody Fajardo, another year together. I think that's another, big plus of what they kept. I mean, to replace Solomon Elimimian in the middle with Larry Dean is nice. And I want to be careful here because Solly is, redefine the position, is a first ballot, no question, Hall of Fame, difference maker, generational player at middle linebacker. But he was also at the end, and Larry Dean is in his prime. So it could be an upgrade for just strength, young legs, consistency, that kind of thing. And that's taking nothing away from a Hall of Famer in Solomon Elimimian.
You replaced an all-star with an all-star, right? At middle linebacker. And Solly was 32 in 2019. Larry Dean is 32 in 2021, right? That one's good. Derek Moncrief. Here's the thing. You paid $5.3 million in salary cap in 2019 to win 13 games. Guys outperformed their contract, right? Whatever Moncrief was getting paid, he deserved to get paid more. That guy was awesome, right? Solomon probably deserved more money. Charleston probably deserved more money. Guys outperformed their contract, and now the bill comes due and you can't pay it. You go, okay, well, we're going to lose. Jeremy O'Day said it from the beginning. We're going to lose some guys because we can't possibly afford everybody because they were so, this is me editorializing the end part. They were so bleeping good that they're worth more than they were pre-2019, right? That's, to me, there's nothing I would blame Jeremy O'Day for having done. I probably would have given Charleston what he wanted, but I'm not accountable to anybody. I just, with the constraints he had and the talent he had, this to me, as a Rider fan, I'm satisfied with how it was, but I think Farhan and Dave are on it by saying C+.
I'd go higher than that, though. I honestly, okay. I'd go B, maybe even B+. Because again, I think my floor for a C+ is quarterback situation, and I really like Saskatchewan's. So So they start there. When you talk about some of the replacements, okay, they need to find a linebacker. I think they need to see which one of the Canadian receivers. You look at Justin McInnes, Jake Hardy, Mitchell Picton, Zimmerman. One of those guys has got to become an 800-yard receiver, 800 to 1,000-yard receiver. If that happens, this is going to be a solid core, receiving core, right? But we don't know about any one of those Canadian receivers yet. So I'd like to see one of those guys step up. I think that's a question mark in some ways. I like what they've done on the O-line. I mean,
yes,
there's a chance for the Saskatchewan Thrasher, right?
Yes.
Right? You like that?
I love that. The Thresher pulling it out.
Oh, the Thresher. Sorry, I said it wrong.
Pulling it out. I like it.
The Thresher.
Yeah. There's the ability, and that's one of my biggest loves, and we got to duck the break after, but that's one of my biggest loves of what Jo did is options at multiple positions for Canadians. Boyko can be a tackle. You got a backup to Ailey Buka and Godfrey Onyeka. You can go Canadian at corner at at the field side cornerback. You can be Canadian at weak side linebacker again if you want to. Just options for his coaches when they deploy where are we going to put our 7 Canadians or 8 Canadians, whatever we decide to do. I love that part of what Jo did.
So it's not a Thrasher, it's a Thresher.
Thresher.
It's a Thresher. Okay.
Yeah. We'll talk about this off air, but we were looking for the farm equivalent of a road grader, and someone suggested you guys can't come up with combine. A combine isn't a road grader, right? A combine doesn't do road grader, just flattens everything. A combine, it threshes and it collects it. That's not the same thing. So we're still we're still on the hunt for what is the farm equivalent of a road grader. We continue with Glen Suitor, International Women's Day, and I was thinking about it today, Suits. Two of the contributors we have, one on the NFL, one on the CFL, are women on the show. We could always use more. And I'm so grateful for them in every respect. Laura Dykin and Christina Costable of the CFL, who regularly contribute to the show. I didn't play football at any level. Like, I played it till I was terrible in high school. They threw me one pass. It was incomplete. My high school football memory is I threw a block for a quarterback who ran for a touchdown. Destroyed 2 guys though. So
nice.
As a pro football player, I know you're super impressed by that. But it doesn't matter. Honestly, along the lines of what you and I were talking about with Schultz, however you came to love football and know about football and learn more about football, bring it on. Bring it on. I love it.
Well, in International Women's Day, I will talk about 3 women that I've been so impressed with over time. And one is Sarah Orlesky, who, in the 20 years that I've been in television, this is a well-respected, across the board, well-respected reporter, just sideline reporter in hockey, football, all the works that she does with TSN. But, I see how she interacts with players and how players treat Sarah. And, there are times when she's got to ask some tough questions. As you know, that's part of our business. And there's great respect. You know how you notice that sometimes is when Sarah does those halftime interviews with a coach and they're saying, okay, coach, how do you make, what are the changes you make going into the second half? A lot of the coaches will say their answer and then finish the conversation with thanks, Sarah, with her name. And that doesn't happen to a lot of reporters. It's kind of, we've got to get more pressure on the quarterback. Okay, thanks. And then they run away. But it's always with Sarah. It's always thanks, Sarah. And there's that respect there, and she has it across the league, and and obviously a very male dominated sport. So I hats off to her. But the 2 I got to mention, DT, or I'll be in big trouble. But
hit me.
I can't be more proud, and I'm glad we got a chance to do this. I can't be more proud of my daughter, who went down to Manhattan in New York City when she was a teenager, and I'll never forget dropping her off. She went to AMDA, the American Music and Dramatic Academy, and I dropped her off. And I'm sitting in the cab at the top of the street right by Central Park, and her dorm was just down the road. And I said, we can take you right to the road. And she said, no, Dad, I'm not walking in the first day of school with my dad. Like, I got to do this on my own. So here's my teenage daughter getting out of the car, Alicia, and just saying, hey, I got it from here. And that's when the waterworks hit me, and I'm going, what am I doing? This is New York City, Manhattan, right?
Yeah.
So she goes on to graduate from AMDA with honors, and right out of the gate gets a national tour for Wizard of Oz. So a chance for Dad to brag, and I appreciate it. But she took on New York, and she did it by herself. And, we were there with her emotionally and spiritually and on the phone whenever she needed us, but we weren't in the city with her. She was there by herself, and man, I don't know about you, but this pandemic and this year, I have come to appreciate my wife so much that, just her patience with me when I'm yelling at my television, that alone is just remarkable, because I feel like I'm yelling at my television almost every night. The news comes on and I find out we're the 58th country in the world when it comes to the vaccine.
Yeah.
I start yelling at my television. Yes, and that might be an old thing. I got it. But her patience and her pulling me out of rabbit holes through this past year and pandemic, man, she's the toughest person I know. And I know some tough people with linebackers and stuff we've talked about. Toughest person I know in a great way. So tremendous respect for the women in my life, for sure.
That's amazing. Glen, Lisa Flam can't hear you. Stop yelling at her. It's not her fault.
Exactly.
The conversation. Okay, yeah, that's
very similar. Yeah, and to put up with the fact that I wore sweatpants for one full year. So
I'm still in sweatpants. See if we can get these up to the camera. I remember, I'm not going back. Come on. We can look at. I mean, your business up top, but I suspect there's party on the bottom here.
Yeah,
on the video. I like that a lot. Suits, I just made a note. At some point in this off season, we need to talk about two things, because I think you and I would have a super interesting conversation on them. I delved a little bit into the fact that running backs don't matter in football. I feel like you and I would have a real good conversation on that, taking opposite sides of that one. And the importance of Canadians in the Canadian Football League, as far as the 7 guys that take up the roster. I feel like there's some real good talk we would have in that. So marinate on those for a bit. And I would prepare a bunch of evidence, but I think we would have some good chats on that stuff.
Absolutely. And I'll just say, I'll just put a name in there, Andrew Harris. That's going to be a name that I'm going to bring up in the running back conversation. The Canadian part, I will never apologize for the Canadian ratio for a lot of reasons. So I'm all in on that one. And there was one other I'm going to add here, because we got a call, remember, and it was a couple of weeks ago now. Now, some things have happened that we've sort of changed gears, but it was
jersey sponsorships.
Yes, jersey sponsorships. And a caller asking how I felt about that. And I am all for it. I think coming out of this pandemic, if there's any way to generate revenues,
a break, we
got to do it. We got to give it a try. It doesn't have to be forever, but we got to give it a try. So I'm all for it if it's done properly.
Love it. Love it. We'll see if Thursday allows us a chance to do that. Suits, thanks, buddy.
Okay. Thanks, DT. Thanks, guys.
Glen Suitor and Fine Tailored Suits, brought to you by Quality Tire. 10 locations across Saskatchewan. QualityTire.ca.